Colby Covington versus Robbie Lawler. Wow. Gotta be honest, I did not see it going down that way. Or not exactly that way. Especially not Colby Covington throwing the most strikes in UFC history. I had no doubts that he would win. I definitely thought he would win. And I thought he would win the unanimous decision. I definitely did not think he would finish Robbie. I thought the fight would go one of two ways, and that is Robbie Lawler would win via quick knockout, or Colby Covington would grind him out over 5 rounds, kind of like he did. But I didn't think it would be anywhere near as dominant as it was. I mean, he absolutely dominated Robbie Lawler in every facet of the game, even the striking, which was, I would say, pretty dang surprising. Colby Covington's, he's definitely not known for his striking. He's known for his cardio, he's known for his grappling, his wrestling, but he was definitely, at least not before his fight against Robbie Lawler, known for his striking. I would say he's still definitely not known for having power shots, because landing a couple hundred shots on Robbie Lawler, and I mean, Robbie Lawler's face was busted up, no doubt about that, but he never came close to rocking him or finishing him. So I wouldn't say I was impressed with his power, but his cardio, man, his cardio is just next level. I thought Kamaru Usman had good cardio, especially in his fight against Tyron Woodley, but after watching Colby Covington's fight against Robbie Lawler, he might have the best cardio in the UFC, not just in the 170-pound division. It might honestly be the best cardio in all of the UFC, even the smaller divisions, which is pretty crazy to say, considering some of those 125ers or 135ers seem like they have cardio for days. It might not be quite as good as those guys, but it's definitely, I would say, the best at 170 pounds. And I thought going into that fight that his cardio and Kamaru Usman's cardio were probably the two best in the division, or at least two of the best, and they were very similar fighters in that their strengths were their cardio, their grappling, their wrestling. I think Kamaru Usman is a little bit bigger, he's probably a little bit more powerful, but he's not known for his power either. So, you know, what does he have, like 2 knockouts in 12 fights? Or I don't even know if they're knockouts, they might have been TKOs. And Colby Covington, I'm obviously driving right now, so I can't look it up. I'm not sure what his finishing rate is either, but I don't think it's very high. So they're very, very, very similar fighters. And if you had asked me before the main event yesterday who had the better cardio between the two, I don't know. I would have said it's probably a toss-up. But now I think, after watching last night's fight, I think Colby Covington definitely has the better cardio. And that says a lot, because Kamaru Usman was an absolute Energizer bunny in his fight against Tyron Woodley. But I don't think Tyron Woodley provided quite as much resistance as Robbie Lawler did. Robbie Lawler, I got to give it to him, man. He got dominated, but he just kept getting up and getting up and getting up and getting up. So he did not give up at any point in that fight. He didn't throw very many strikes. Part of that, or a lot of that, I think it was he was so worried about the takedown, which didn't really allow him to open up his striking game too much. Aside from that, though, I think he was just conserving his energy. I mean, we've seen in plenty of his previous fights, Robbie Lawler really come alive in that 5th round. The fight against Carlos Condit comes to mind. I mean, Carlos Condit was soundly outstriking him that entire fight. It was a 5-round fight. It was a title fight. Carlos Condit was outstriking him by a large margin, and then Robbie Lawler had a huge 5th round, and he also had a couple of big moments throughout the fight where he landed big power shots. But at the end of the day, if you look at the fight metrics in that Robbie Lawler-Carlos Condit fight, Carlos Condit still finished ahead of him in strikes by a huge margin, yet the judges gave the fight to Robbie Lawler. So I kind of thought that's a little bit of what was happening. I thought maybe he was just reserving his energy, and I thought he was going to really come alive in that 5th round. But honestly, man, I think he was just exhausted. The pace that Colby Covington put on him from start to finish was something I don't think I've ever seen before, especially at 170 pounds. Like I said, I was super impressed with Kamaru Usman in his fight against Tyron Woodley. I think before the fight last night, I would say that's one of the most dominant performances, especially against champion, I've ever seen at 170 pounds, because Kamaru Usman just absolutely dominated Tyron Woodley in every facet of the game that fight. I mean, dominated the grappling, dominated the takedowns, dominated the striking, although there wasn't nearly as much striking as there was in the Robbie Lawler-Colby Covington fight. So that's what impressed me the most, though, for sure, was Colby Covington's striking, because we haven't really seen that much of it in any of his past fights, and a lot of that fight, especially in like the 4th and 5th rounds, a lot of that fight took place on the feet. And Robbie Lawler's definitely known as a striker with a lot of power. And Colby Covington pretty soundly outstruck him, even like I said, in the 4th and 5th round when he wasn't necessarily exactly looking for too many takedowns. I mean, at that point, you could definitely make an argument that Robbie Lawler was still worried about the takedowns, and he was just too exhausted to throw anything. He's still doing a really good job with his head movement, of bobbing and weaving, so he was doing a pretty good job, I would say, of trying to get out of the way of Colby Covington's strikes, but Colby Covington just did not stop throwing the entire fight. I mean, he literally had that jab in Robbie Lawler's face from start to finish. It was crazy. He did not stop throwing punches or going for takedowns the entire fight. He never took a break, never took a breather. I don't know if we've ever seen a performance like that at 170 pounds. So I don't think there's any doubt in the world that Kamaru Usman's next title defense is going to be against Colby Covington. I don't think there was too much doubt before that fight that Colby Covington deserved it. But after a performance like that, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't give it to him. And I think there's a lot more hype. There was already a lot of hype between those two because of the buffet incident with the crab legs, where Kamaru Usman's manager, what's his name, Ali, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name. He's the manager for a ton of fighters, though. I'm sure a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. He tried to attack, or did attack, Colby Covington in that buffet line at, what was it, I don't know, some hotel in Vegas. So yeah, and there's already been a lot of heat between them, a lot of back and forth. And then after last night's fights, they went at it again when Colby Covington was talking to Rashad Evans and that crew. So there was a lot of back and forth at that time. And then apparently when the camera shut off, they kept going at it. So yeah, now there's definitely even more hype behind the fight. And personally, I'm a lot more excited about it after seeing last night's fight against Robbie Lawler. I think, like I said, they're very evenly matched. I think they have probably the best cardio in the division. And they're such similar fighters in the fact that their strengths are pretty much the exact same. So I think it's a very interesting, a very intriguing matchup. Hopefully it doesn't end up being a very boring matchup where they're wrestling and grappling, cancels each other out, and then it ends up being a striking match, which, you know, it very likely could be. And if it is, like I said, I think Kamaru Usman has a power advantage, even though he doesn't have too many knockouts or finishes. But is he going to be able to keep up with Colby Covington's pace, especially if the fight stays on the feet? Especially if Colby Covington looks anything like he did last night, where he's just tossing out the jab the entire fight or throwing strikes the entire fight and not giving Kamaru Usman any room to breathe. I think, honestly, man, before last night, I probably would have leaned towards Kamaru Usman in that fight. I still thought it'd be close, but after last night's fight, I think if you ask me right now, I would definitely pick Colby Covington. I don't think there's anybody at 170 pounds that can match his pace and his output. So I'm definitely excited to see that fight now. I think, like I said, 100%, that has to be what's next. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you thought about Colby Covington's fight last night against Robbie Lawler, and let me know what you think about what should be the upcoming title fight between Colby Covington and the champ Kamaru Usman. That's it for now. That's a wrap for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the fights. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll catch you next time.
Oh my goodness! Oh my God! Just like